Welcome to week one of the Lowe Down. I hope everyone is excited about college football as I am. We got a great slate of games this week one. It's going to run all the way into Monday. So we got live action. We got football. We got heads popping. We got people cheering. We got people going to be getting mad because their team gets upset. But it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's strap it on and get ready for the takeoff. This Thursday night has a great slate of games. That's going to start off with Tennessee hosting Ball State. Really like this Tennessee team. I've talked about them in this preseason. I think their offense is dynamic with Hendon Hooker and Cedric Wilson there at receiver. I think they're going to be able to score a lot of points. Bree McCoy was just ruled eligible by the NCAA, so that's another weapon there at receiver. Jabari Smalls, a running back there that's a pretty talented player. Tennessee defensively, they're going to need a big year out of Byron Young and Tyler Barron to provide some pass rush. But I really like this Vols team. Think they got a chance to make some noise in the East. And if anything, they're going to be an entertaining team to watch. And so I like Tennessee to run away with this one at Ball State, against Ball State, 55-17. We'll move to West Virginia at Pitt. Neil Brown, 17-18 in 3 seasons there at West Virginia. He's probably going to need to have a big year there to keep his job. It's interesting here, 2 former USC quarterbacks going at it. West Virginia has JT Daniels, who transferred in from Georgia. The offensive coordinator is Graham Harrell, who was his OC while he was at USC. Pitt counters with Kadon Slavis, who was also at USC and replaces Kenny Pickett there at quarterback. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. It's a rivalry game, backyard brawl. It's always a pretty entertaining matchup. But I'm going to give the edge here to Pitt. I like Kalaji Cansey, defensive lineman. If you don't know who he is, he's an All-American type player at defensive tackle. They returned 7 starters up front. Pitt, under Pat Narduzzi, they always play good defense, and I think this guy has another good year. You're going to see him in the running for a big-time job. Dante Stills is a guy from West Virginia. He's a defensive lineman. He's a good player. So I think this is going to be a defensive game, but I'm going to lead Pitt. I think they're going to take the game. I'm going to say, let's see, 20-17, Pitt wins. Moving on to Penn State at Purdue. Battle 2 pretty good quarterbacks here. Purdue has lost 8 straight to the Nittany Lions. So I think that's going to change tonight. Penn State goes into this game. They're a slight favorite, 3.5-point favorite. I think Purdue gets them at home. I think this is an upset right here in the making. Aiden O'Connell last year for Purdue threw for 3,712 yards and 28 touchdowns. Charlie Jones came in from Iowa. He's a really good player there at receiver. Purdue also finished strong last year, beating Tennessee in the bowl game. So running back King Daru ran for 533 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. Sean Clifford's back at quarterback for Penn State, and they have 3 returning starters on the offensive line. But I just think I think all signs lead to the losing streak being broke here tonight. And I like Purdue, another low-scoring game. I like Purdue 23-20 over Penn State. Oklahoma State's another team that starts their season tonight against Central Michigan. Lou Nichols, if you've never heard of him, for Central Michigan, is one of the best running backs in the country. But I think Spencer Sanders and that Oklahoma State offense is going to be too much for them. I like Oklahoma State pretty big here, 38-14. Moving on to Friday night's game, not a lot of action there as far as ranked teams, but Indiana host Illinois. Brett Bielema's team was impressive in their win over Wyoming last week. Tommy DeVito played pretty good there at quarterback. He was a Syracuse transfer. But they got this running back, Chase Brown, that they have. He just went over 2,000 career rushing yards for Illinois last week. He's one of the best running backs in the country. I think that ground game, and if you watch Illinois, they played pretty good defense last year, and they did well on that side of the ball last week, against Wyoming. So I like, Indiana's a slight favorite. They got Jack Tuttle and former Missouri quarterback Connor Brazelak there competing for that job. But I like Illinois to pull the upset here and I like them to do pretty handily. I like the Illini 23 to 14. Moving on to Saturday action, which there's plenty of it. 2:30 game. We got Oregon versus Georgia in Atlanta. Bo Nix gets to face the vaunted Georgia defense once again. He hasn't had any success playing against the Bulldog defense in his previous couple of tries. So I think Georgia here, Stetson Bennett, he's knocked for how big he is, but I think he's got a chance to put together a really good season. Everybody knows Brock Bowers there at tight end. Darnell Washington's another guy they got there at tight end. Really good player. I think the Bulldogs put it on them here, and I like Georgia 34-13. Moving down to Cincinnati and Arkansas, 2:30 game. Luke Fickell hasn't decided on a quarterback yet. Ben Bryant or Evan Prater are in the running there. Of course, Arkansas has KJ Jefferson back at quarterback. Bumper Pool is a guy that they're a linebacker that could be an All-American candidate. And so the one thing about Cincinnati, they're going to play hard. They're going to give full effort. Arkansas is another team that does that. I think Arkansas is going to be a little much here, though, at home. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game myself. I like Arkansas 27, Cincinnati 17. Moving to Troy and Ole Miss. Troy at Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin has yet to name a starter there at quarterback. It's either going to be Jackson Dart or Luke Altmaier. I think Altmaier eventually win the job. Troy is a team that can really get after the quarterback. So this has the potential to be an interesting game. Gunnar Watson returns there at quarterback for Troy. They got a couple of their offensive linemen back. I think Troy makes this a good ball game. I don't know if they necessarily upset Ole Miss, but I think they have the potential to. But I think this is a huge spread, and I like Troy to cover that. And I like Ole Miss barely squeaking one out, 27-23. Moving on to one of the bigger games in the country, Saturday night, number 7 Utah enters Florida. New debut for Billy Napier there as the Gators head coach. He had a lot of success at Louisiana last couple of seasons. Good football coach. I think Anthony Richardson there at quarterback, if he can really fulfill his potential, he can be one of the better players in the country. He's a dynamic dual threat. Last year, Florida had a lot of problems on defense, so they couldn't stop anybody. So I think that's something they got to get straight on that side of the ball. Brenton Cox is a big-time player at linebacker there for Florida. But, when you look at this Utah team, Cameron Rising there at quarterback, they got a veteran offensive line. This is just a rugged, tough, mean bunch. I think they got a chance to make the playoff. I think the crowd's going to be off the chain in the swamp, but I like the Utes going in there behind Cameron Rising and pulling off a win. I'll say Utah 34, Florida 23. Moving on to Utah State at top-ranked Alabama, 6:30 kickoff. Watched Utah State last week. They had problems with UConn's blitzing packages. So playing Will Anderson and that group of Dallas Turner and those boys on that side of the ball, I just think Logan Bonner is going to have a long night. Now, Logan Bonner is a good quarterback. He can throw the ball around. But with Alabama and what they have on defense and what they can do on offense. Now, Alabama does have some question marks on its offensive line. We've heard that in the offseason, and I think they have some question marks at corner. But you look at their defensive line, Tim Smith, DJ Dell, those guys, they're linebackers. I think they're safeties with Jordan Battle. Of course, you got nickel Malachi Moore, really good player there. I just think Alabama's going to be too much. Now, this is a really big spread. I think Alabama wins the game, but I don't know if they cover the 41. But then again, if Utah State has problems blocking Alabama's front, which they will, this one could get out of hand. So I'll go Alabama 51, Utah State 10. Moving to Notre Dame, Ohio State. Quarterback Taylor Bochner takes over there for Notre Dame, takes over for Ian Book. CJ Crone, who was their quarterback last year. I think that's right. I might be wrong there. But left guard Jarrett Patterson, one of the better linemen in the country. Jack Cone, not CJ Crone. Jack Cone played quarterback for Notre Dame last year. Jarrett Patterson, though, is questionable for the game. I think that's not a good sign for Notre Dame. But, I mean, I think the Irish have a chance to hang in this game. Of course, Ohio State with C.J. Stroud, Travion Henderson, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. That's one of the dynamic trios on offense in the country. But, I mean, I think Notre Dame's getting no respect in this game, and I think they're going to be able to hang with Ohio State for a little while. Ohio State might pull away late with a late touchdown. But, you know, this is a game that has all the makings to me of one of those where you know, the Irish aren't getting any respect. So I like Ohio State here, 34-17. I think that line's about where it needs to be. Sunday night game, FSU and LSU in New Orleans. I think the guy there at LSU is going to be Jaden Daniels at quarterback, although Garrett Nussmeier is probably going to play some too. LSU starting a rookie left tackle, freshman offensive tackle Will Campbell left tackle. Of course, if you heard me and Chris Gordy's discussion yesterday, Chris did a great job evaluating LSU. So if you want to check that out and get more in depth with LSU in this Florida State matchup, do so. Feel free. Mason Taylor is a guy, Jason Taylor's son there at tight end. Brian Kelly really spoke highly of him this offseason, so I think he's a guy to watch there at tight end. But LSU, they struggled defensively last year, so we'll be interesting to see what Matt House, who comes from the Kansas City Chiefs, does there for that defense. LSU's always got athletes there, and I think you're going to see a more attacking style of defense from the Tigers this season coming up. Mike Norvell, you know, head coach of FSU, they played better down the stretch last year. He had a big-time rebuilding job that he had to do down there in Tallahassee. Jordan Travis is a guy that really played well for FSU down the stretch last year. He's a big athletic kid at quarterback. Trey Benson, Lawrence Toafili, and Treshaun Ward are kind of a three-headed monster there at running back for FSU. Darius Washington, their starting center, though, left in the first half of last week's win over Duquesne. So if he can't play, that's a big deal for FSU, considering the talent LSU has up front on its defensive line. Omarion Cooper is their FSU's top corner. He's expected to play versus LSU, but he didn't play in the season opener. So we'll see what happens there. Johnny Wilson, 6'7", 230-pound target there at wideout, is another guy that's questionable versus FSU. So if he can't play, that's a big play threat right there that will be out. Kentron Poitier, 6'3", 205, is another guy to watch for FSU. He's a big kid that can go jump up and get it. So this has the makings to me of a really good game. I'm going to lean LSU just because where the game's being played. LSU's breaking in a new kicker, though, so that could be something to watch, especially when the game's on the line. So that could be a really, really big deal there. But I like LSU to win this game. I think this is going to be an entertaining game. I like LSU 31-27. Moving to Monday night's game, which I don't think it's really going to be a game. It's Clemson travels to Georgia Tech. Jeff Collins has had a rough go over there at Georgia Tech. And it'll be interesting to see if Clemson can get back to the level of play that they were at. I mean, DJ Uiagalelei had a rough year last year. He's an athletic kid at quarterback. But sometimes, you just have a down year. And Clemson's offense, for whatever reason, was pretty stagnant a year ago. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get back to where they need to be, because their defensive line, led by Miles Murphy and Brian Breesy, is one of the best in the country, if not the best. I mean, they're probably right there with Alabama and Georgia, I would say. So they're not going to take a step back on that side of the ball in defense. But their offense is what needs to get going. And I think they're just going to steamroll Georgia Tech. I'll say 48-10, something like that. I think it's going to be a blowout. But that kind of wraps up week 1 predictions. I don't know if I'm going to do the lowdown this way. I still kind of like writing it out. I just needed to get something up, and I wanted to try the video. And if you like it, that's cool. If I need to write it out, I'm thinking about doing that as well. I just wanted to try it out this way because, I mean, let's face it, people's attention span nowadays is about that of a snail. So, but yeah, so let me know if you like it. If you don't, that's cool too. I can write. I'm just, like I said, I'm gonna see how this plays out and see what needs to be done. But football is here, ladies and gentlemen, and it's time to strap up the helmet, shoulder pads, and put it on. Let's start popping. All right, guys. So good luck to your teams this weekend, and we're gonna. I might go live too. Saturday night or Sunday, just depending on how things shake out, and do a live show. If I do, I'll let you guys know. And like I said, good luck to y'all this season, and football is here. So let's rock and roll, baby.